This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You're ready to move your business forward, but first, you need to find the right team. Start your search with Indeed-sponsored jobs. It can help you reach qualified candidates fast, ensuring your listing is the first one they see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. See the results for yourself. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
Finish your fantasy lineup?
No, but I'm joining this paid group chat with insider info.
Dude, seriously? Forward it to me. Security alert from McAfee. That group's as legit as that knockoff jersey you're wearing.
McAfee's scam detector is available in all McAfee plans for as little as $39.99 for your first year. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, a holiday you're saving.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. This season, enjoy spacious, comfortable rooms and friendly service when you book with Hilton instead. Hilton for the stay.
Tonight, Avatar Fire and Ash arrives in theaters.
I am the fire!
Get your 3D tickets now for the greatest chapter of the biggest saga in history.
Whatever happens, protect his family.
Critics rave it's by far the best Avatar movie.
If your father and I do not return, you go as far and as fast as you can.
Movies don't get any bigger than this. Avatar Fire and Ash, rated PG-13. Get tickets now.
Duke fans, welcome to episode 126 of DBR Bites, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason Evans, Donald Wine. We are here for a few different reasons. Number one, got to preview big game against Texas Tech. Number two, got to talk a little bit about ACC football and next season's schedule. And number three, the NBA in Cameron. Is this like the ultimate extension of the Brotherhood or something like that? We're going to have stuff on all those things. Before we do, we will say hi to you. I'm Jason. As we mentioned on the last podcast, I've been watching movies. I saw Avatar. I've seen a ton of movies in the past few weeks. It's been a crazy time. This is my buddy Donald. Donald, what you been? You're not traveling. Donald, back in DC.
Well, for now, I will be headed to the game in the Garden on Saturday. As I mentioned, I finally got tickets, so me and a crew of friends are going. So I'll be up there for the weekend. It'll be nice to see this team for the first time in person, Jason. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, exactly. And the game in the Garden, of course, is the contest against Texas Tech, the Red Raiders of Grant McCasland, the best team that money can buy, sort of, kind of, a little bit. Texas Tech has a number of boosters who have committed themselves to making them as competitive as possible in football and basketball via NIL. I don't say any of this as a way of criticizing them. This is 100% within the rules. And honestly, Duke is doing it to the best that we can as well. But Texas Tech is one of those schools that has really, really stepped up its athletic profile as a result of robust NIL investment. Their football team is in the college football playoff and very, very highly seeded. And this year, their basketball team has a number of really, really impressive players that they've managed both to lure to Texas Tech and keep at Texas Tech. And as a result, this is a team that a lot of people thought was going to be really, really great. Donald, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what their schedule's been so far. Honestly, it's been a little bit of a disappointing season, I think, at the moment. In fact, before you even get to it, I just want to note this is a team that started the season number 10 in the AP poll. They started the season number 13 in KenPom. They're now 27th in KenPom. They're now 19th in the AP poll. Like, not bad. Not by any stretch of the imagination are those numbers bad, but they haven't really lived up to very, very lofty expectations thus far, have they?
Yes and no, right? They've had some moments, and I'm sure when we get into the metrics, we'll talk about, I mean, the fact that this team can score quite a bit. They can score in bunches, but they're 8-3 on the season. The wins they have so far against teams like Lindenwood, Sam Houston State, Milwaukee, New Orleans. The one thing I will note is that they have one win over Wake Forest. They won by 1 point in that game. They beat LSU by 24. Again, LSU not a great SEC team, but SEC is considered the best 1 or 1A of the best conferences in America. So beating an SEC team is important in their mind. And the one thing that they struggled on is they've had a couple of wins where they've struggled. And I'll talk about the game they had the other night against Northern Colorado in a second. Their losses, I think, Jason, the reason why people have kind of looked and seen them kind of drop precipitously is they lost to Illinois by 4. Again, not a a team they probably should have beaten, but not a bad loss.
No, look. That game was at Illinois. There's nothing wrong with that. Illinois is a really good team. Nothing wrong with that loss.
No. And they lost by 4. Again, a tough team. Fine. They lost to Arkansas by 7. We saw Arkansas. Tough team. Fine. The thing about it is
that Arkansas game was a very competitive game. Like, they pulled away. Arkansas pulled away a little bit late in that contest.
Late, yes. And again, tough team. We've seen them play. Ain't no shame in losing to them. There's no shame in losing to Purdue either, but they lost to Purdue by 30. And that is where a lot of people said, hey, maybe this team is struggling quite a bit. It also coupled with the fact that they only beat Wyoming by 4. Again, the Wake Forest game, they only won by 1. And just on Tuesday, when we were playing Lipscomb, right after that, Texas Tech played Northern Colorado, I should say. Northern Colorado led most of that game, and they struggled to catch up and eventually pass them. They won by 11. They won 101-90, but it was a shootout. Lawan Watts, who I'm sure you'll talk about, had 36 points in that game, but if he doesn't score 36, we're talking about Texas Tech losing that basketball game. So they've struggled against teams they shouldn't have. And again, the really big loss to Purdue by 30 is where a lot of people raise some alarm bells.
Yeah, let's talk about their advanced metrics. A dynamic, you said it, a dynamic offensive team. One of the best offensive teams in the country, ranked number 16th on offensive efficiency according to Ken Pomeroy. This is a team that does not commit turnovers. Top 25 in the nation at turnover percentage. This is a team that grabs a lot of offensive rebound. They're grabbing more than 35% of their missed shots. Duke must keep Texas Tech off the offensive boards. They're a team that shoots really well from three-point range at close to 38%, and they take a lot of threes. About 46% of their shots, almost half their shots, come from the three-point line. About the only thing they don't do well on offense is shoot free throws, just at 66.8% on their free throws. That's a number that you would think a team that shoots as well as they do from 3, you would think they'd be better at the free throw line, but they really aren't. Defense is more problematic for them. I mentioned 16th in KenPom on offense, just 64th in the country on defense. They don't force turnovers well at all. 223rd in the country at defensive turnover percentage. They're just an average defensive rebounding team. They do a good job of defending on the perimeter, though. This is worth noting. Teams only hit 33% of their three-pointers against Texas Tech, and Texas Tech does not allow teams to shoot a lot of threes. They are top 20 in the country at opponents' three-point field goal rate. Now, we know Duke has a lot of guys who want to shoot the three. And Texas Tech is really great at preventing you from taking three-pointers in rhythm the way you want to take them. Another thing about Texas Tech on defense that is really interesting about them, they're excellent at forcing you to create your own shot and not letting you get passes for easy buckets, not letting you find your teammates, not letting you get other guys involved. Texas Tech's opponents have the 7th lowest assist percentage in college basketball. Donald, this is going to be such a contrast in styles. Duke is great. One of the things we do really, really well on offense is move the ball, find the open man, make the extra pass. Perhaps the best thing that Texas Tech does on defense is prevent that very thing from happening. It's a really interesting contrast.
And it shows up in the eye test as well. When you see Texas Tech play, they're on the ball defense. Sometimes it creates chaos, and kind of a joking way. But really, what they're doing is they're not necessarily super physical on the ball, but they want to create that air of physicality that allows you to think that you can't pass the ball, and they want you to drive and put yourself into situations where you're going to the basket, turn around, and you have no help. That is kind of what they do, and that's a great shout on the fact that they don't allow teams to pass the ball on you. They really like to get you into a position where then they can, maybe force a turnover or at least force a bad shot, and now they have numbers going the other way.
Yeah, it's force a bad shot. It's not force a turnover. They don't get turnovers.
Right. They try. They try.
Right. Not a lot. Let's get to the players, and you have to start with their All-American candidate, JT Toppin. By the way, little known fact. Not related in any way, shape, or form to Obi Toppin, who plays in the NBA and who is a very, very good college player. A lot of people think that JT Toppin is Obi Toppin's younger brother. They're not related at all. Just want folks to know that. JT Toppin started.
He plays like him nonetheless. So
I know exactly. I think that's why. In addition to having last names that are the same and spelled the same, they are very, very similar players.
Right.
JT Toppin started his career at New Mexico, then transferred last year to Texas Tech. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year, and right now I'd say he's a pretty strong favorite to go back to back at that. Although AJ Dybansa may have something to say about all that. In any event, JT Toppin's averaging close to 22 points per game, 21.9 points per game, averages 10.6 rebounds per game. Absolutely elite motor. I mean, if you want to talk about a guy who is hardworking at every moment of the game, showing you energy around the basket the entire contest, you're talking about JT Toppin. He is one of the best offensive rebounders in the country. Never quits on defense. Really good rim protector. 1.8 blocks per game is JT Toppin. And, 6'9". Not like he's small, but it's not like we're talking about a 7-footer, 7'1" guy with a 7'8", 7'9" wingspan who's blocking these shots. It's JT Toppin working hard, knowing how to play the game the right way, getting all those block shots. He is, by the way, a lefty, and man, he just finishes in all kinds of ways around the basket, including dunking on your head. He'll do that to you. JT Toppin is not a good outside shooter, though. That's probably why, he looked at the NBA. He looked at the NBA draft as a freshman after his sophomore year as well. He was generally projected last year, or last summer, I should say, as being like maybe a late first, early second rounder. He elected to go back to Texas Tech. There are a lot of people who say that he's getting paid better this year at Texas Tech.
That's what happened. Let's be clear. That's what happened.
Yeah. Texas Tech was like, oh, late first rounder. That's about a $2.5-3 million a year contract. We can take care of that for you.
Here's three. Let's talk.
Exactly.
No, but Jason, I think also the one thing about JT Toppin is that similarly to Richard Hamilton when he was with the Pistons, you were going to everyone who plays him. You're going to be, as Duke fans, you're going to watch the TV. You're going to see him kind of moving around, his motor on both offense and defense. You're going to be like, man, just stop. Stop running, please. I'm sick of you. You're going to be sick of this guy. That's how much he rolls around. And whoever is tasked with guarding him needs to be prepared to run with him because he's going to get around. And again, as you get tired, as his defender gets tired, that's when he makes the right decision, finds himself in the right space. And with his athleticism, he can score from just about anywhere on the court.
Yeah, except from outside the 3-point line.
Except from three. Yeah. He doesn't like to shoot a lot. He doesn't like to shoot a ton, right? But again, he's going to do the old college attempt, but it's part of the chess game that he has to get in the right position the next time.
Yeah, he's just a 30% career 3-point shooter and does not take a lot of threes. He'll take one or two because people slough off him so much. He's also less than 60% from the free throw line on his career. And not saying that you want to foul him a lot, but if you foul him, he's a pretty good guy to foul. Let's just put it that way. By the way, one of the really interesting things, before I get into the other players, one of the interesting things about JT Toppin, one of the big questions I have is who guards him for Duke? And the reason I ask that is this. I mean, when I tell you he's a 6'9", elite motor kind of guy, your first thought is going to be, Cam Boozer's probably going to guard him. Cam's really good at not fouling. Cam is a very, very, very good defender, knows how to position his body and the such. And you would think, JT Toppin against Cam Boozer, matchup of arguably maybe the two best power forwards in all of college basketball. Caleb Wilson's pissed off at me right now for that.
Don't care.
We don't care, exactly. But this Texas Tech team has suddenly become smaller than they expected to be. They have decent size, like, on the wings and such. It's not like Duke's wings will be playing against guys who are 6'2". They're 6'5", 6'6", 6'6", all across the wings. But their front line has gotten really small because they have a guy from England, a 6'11" big man named Luke Bamboy, something like that. Bamboy? I'm going to say Bamboy. Okay. Luke Bamboy. Anyway, he's 6'11". Don't worry about how to pronounce his name. He won't be playing in this game. He's been injured a lot this year. He sprained or strained something in their game against Northern Colorado. And as a result, he's for sure out of the Duke game. Without his 6'11", 230-pound size in the middle, JT Toppin's going to play center for them a lot. And they really don't. There's no one else on their roster who is at all sized to be able to play in the middle. So, Donald, here's the interesting question it presents. All right, you make, and immediately you go, well, they're going to have like a 6'5" guy, 6'5", 6'6", someone like that guarding Cameron Boozer. And you're just like, yes, please. Hello. This will work for me. It's possible they have Toppin guard Boozer and they put some 6'5", 6'6" guy on Patrick Gongba. And you're like, yes, please. That works. No problem. The problem's at the other end of the floor because I don't know that Patrick Gongba has quite the right kind of game to defend JT Toppin, and I worry that Pat could get in foul trouble defending him. I think Cam is a great matchup for him, but then if Cam's guarding JT Toppin, are you putting Pat on one of these wings, one of these 6'5" guys? That could be problematic, and that's why I think this could be a very interesting Malik Brown game. Because let me tell you something. Malik Brown, very, very well suited to guard JT Toppin. And I'm not saying that look, we've talked extensively about how important Patrick Gongba is to this team. But I think this could be a game where we go, you know what, just the makeup of the other team and how things fit and work. This could be a really good Malik Brown game. I'm just tossing that out there. Say something while I catch my breath before I talk about the other players.
I think Malik Brown guarding JT Toppin is a great shout, but I don't know that it's going to change necessarily the shape of what we do. It's not like we're going to go super small. We've seen that at times against some of the smaller teams, but I also think that this presents some opportunities for us, right? We could do a three-back lineup where you have Malik Brown who can guard anybody on the floor. You have Cam Boozer who can guard maybe a JT Toppin at times, and they maybe kind of switch off of him. And then you have Big Pat where you go, hi, I'm sorry, he's 6'11", and you have nobody else. It's not on us to figure that out. It's dependent on Texas Tech to figure that out. So it presents some front court options for us. And I don't think you'll see a lot of fronts where you see all three of those guys in at the same time. But again, the rotations are going to really help us. And I think it's going to be dependent on Texas Tech to kind of figure out how to make the game theirs as opposed to us trying to make the game ours.
That's a very good point. And it's worth noting, by the way, even though I said Texas Tech has decent size on the wings with a lot of 6'5" and 6'6" guys, Duke, if we want, Isaiah, Nick Hemenia, Dame Sarr, those guys are all 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", and long. And Duke's size could be a real factor in this game. I mentioned that Texas Tech is a really, really good offensive rebounding team. They're not as good of a defensive rebounding team, and that could be one of the big stories to play out in this game. All right, let me talk about a couple other players before I wrap it up and let you get to other stuff. This is a true inside-out team. We talked about JT Toppin, but their second best player is 6'3" Christian Anderson, who's one of the best point guards in the country. In a game like this, a competitive game, he's going to play 40 minutes. I mean, maybe he'll play 39, but he will have he'll have his hands on the ball every damn possession for them. He's averaging 19.3 points per game and 7.5 assists per game. There are very few players in the country who are a threat to go 20-8 or, double 20-10 on points and assists. And that's the kind of player Christian Anderson is. Against Arkansas the other day, he went for 26 and 11. That's a hell of a game from your point guard. And as we saw, those Arkansas guards are not bad at all. Vastly improved is Christian Anderson over his freshman. He's a sophomore now. His freshman year, he averaged 10 points per game and 2.2 assists per game. So he's up 9 points per game, and he's up 5 assists per game as a sophomore. I mean, those are wow kind of numbers. That's how much he's improved. He's improved as an outside shooter as well. He's hitting 42% of his threes this year on high volume. Donald, this guy who takes 7+ threes per game, and he's hitting 42%. You mentioned already that they have a very solid third scorer in Lawan Watts. He came over from Washington State. He was Cedric Coward's running mate last year at Washington State. He's averaging 14 points per game this year as Lawan Watts. Really great at putting the ball on the floor and forcing his way to the bucket and getting fouled. He's 6'6", 225, very, very solid frame, which allows him to finish through contact. I think you will see him playing against Cam Boozer a lot in this contest. Again, just the nature of how he plays and what the matchups are like. I think Lawan Watts is going to draw Cam. You said it. They had that tough game against Northern Colorado where he went for 36 points on 12 of 13 shooting, did Lawan Watts. 12 of 13, and he hit 3 threes in that game. He's usually not a big three-point shooter, but he hit 3 threes in that game, so maybe that's developing for him. Keep an eye on that guy. For your third scorer to be averaging 14 points per game and capable of going for 30+, that tells you how potent this Texas Tech offense is. I don't want to get into everyone, but I want to mention one other guy. One of their wings is a outside shooter named Donovan Atwell. He's hitting 42% of his threes on the year, taking like 7 to 8 3-pointers per game. That's all he does. Just so we're clear. Dude has taken 90 shots in the season, 87 threes, just 7 2-point shots. I don't think you need to worry about him putting the ball on the floor. I don't think you need to worry about him driving to the basket. How do you take only 7 2-point shots and 83 3-point shots? And by the way, he averages like 30+ minutes per game. He's only taken 9 free throws on the year.
Yeah, well, he's camping at the 3-point line. So
exactly.
Who's following him?
I just looked at the numbers and I was like, the first thing that jumped out was like the 83 threes in 11 games. You're like, wow, that guy's, he's firing it up there. And then I'm like, he doesn't do anything else. It's just interesting to keep an eye on Donovan Atwell. I will say it presents an interesting opportunity for Duke. If there's someone, maybe there's a Darren Harris that you're like, yeah, we got to hide him a little bit on defense. Just, not a lot, just a little bit. Atwell. It's the guy. Just watch that dude at the 3-point line. That's all you need to worry about with him.
Yeah, going back to Lawan Watts, I think the one thing about the threes that he had against Northern Colorado is that all of them were clutch. Like one was, I think, towards the end of the shot clock. A couple of them were late when they were, when Northern Colorado was either within a point or two, and he would extend it to 4 and again just make it where they needed to expend that much more energy to try and creep back into it after they took the lead. And he just down the stretch, I think, willed that team to victory. As I mentioned, if they don't have his 36 points, they don't win that ball game. And it's actually quite a blowout on the other end. And Northern Colorado was probably lamenting the fact that they weren't able to hold off, but Texas Tech definitely had to count their watts, their wattage, because he was the guy down the stretch that really made it where Texas Tech is in this position.
Right. Donald, finish up our preview of Texas Tech. Tell me what you're looking for in this contest. Duke's last major non-conference game before we get to the conference play.
Yeah, and I think with this game, if you look at Texas Tech, they have a lot of games where both teams are high scoring, a lot of shootouts. This doesn't feel like a game that we should let become a shootout. It's the Garden. I get it. But this is a game where we want to try and limit the opportunities they have to score. And if we're able to execute on offense, we're going to start to pull away, and I think our defense needs to rule the day. On offense, I think one area of concern has been what we did against Lipscomb, right? We were sloppy taking care of the basketball. We were making bad passes. We were not taking great shots. And as you mentioned, Texas Tech is good at defending the passing lanes and doesn't allow a lot of teams to score via the pass. That is our bread and butter. So we have to figure out a way to fight through that. Find open looks, make smart passes. Don't pass into positions where Texas Tech can make you take a bad shot. But really, I think it's about us moving the ball around and have everybody active. Because at a certain point, Texas Tech is going to get tired. Just like, I just mentioned the person who's tasked with guarding JT Toppin is going to be running around all day. We want those guys on defense to be sucking wind at the end because they are so tired of watching the ball move from one end of the court to the other, finding guys in different parts of the floor, because that is going to limit what they do on offense. If they're tired because of their defense, their offense is going to struggle. Their legs are going to get tired. And Jason, that's when they're going to start shooting the threes that they don't like to hit, right? That's when they start kind of forcing the issue. As you mentioned, there's guys that play solid. They're not necessarily the strongest guys in the world, but they do play with some strength. We need to be able to match that intensity. And I think, again, getting up for the Garden is not hard, but they need to be able to be ready for this. And again, the last thing I'll say is Texas Tech stars are going to want to shine. If we limit the opportunities for those stars that you mentioned to get their opportunities to turn this into, the JT Toppin game or the Lawan Watts game or the Christian Anderson game, like that, we should make sure that those guys aren't the ones beating us. If we play sound, if we play determined basketball, and I think on offense, if we are able to make smart shots, we're going to make them. And I think in the Garden, before, our home away from home, it's easy to get blinded by, oh, I'm in the Garden. Someone has to go off in this game, right? The Garden always has somebody that goes for 40 on the NBA level and the college level. This is a game where we need to stay within ourselves, get the ball to our stars, and make the shots that we need to make. And on defense, play Duke basketball. Our defense is going to be better than their offense. If we rule that, we're going to win this ball game.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. By the way, I should note Duke is an 8-point favorite in this game, according to the early advanced metrics and the early lines and things like that. It's not a given. I mean, yes, I know that Texas Tech has lost pretty much all the games they played against top 30 kind of teams, and Duke is a top 5 kind of team. But this is not a given that Duke's going to walk out of this game with a victory. It's a very, very talented Texas Tech team that we will be playing. In any event, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, Duke football. Did we just get screwed by the ACC? A lot of people are saying that. We'll talk about it in just a moment.
Hey, the holidays are almost here, and if you have names still on your list, don't panic. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful. With thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else, you'll discover presents that feel meaningful and personal, never rushed or last minute.
Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, from moms and dads to kids and teens, from book lovers and sports fans to foodies, mixologists, and gardeners. You'll find unforgettable gifts that are anything but ordinary. And perhaps most importantly, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Every purchase is a chance to choose something remarkable and feel good about where your money goes.
Look, so don't wait. Make this holiday of the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/DukeBB. That's uncommongoods.com/DukeBB and get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
Witness the colossal boxing showdown nobody expected, live on Netflix. International superstar Jake Paul the sport's most watched fighter, takes on Britain's two-time unified heavyweight world champion and Olympic gold medalist, Anthony A.J. Joshua, in the most dangerous and defining matchup of their careers. This is Judgment Day. Watch Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, Friday, December 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on Netflix.
We're only a few weeks in, and the season is already wild. Stars are going off, freshmen are making noise, and the action doesn't stop. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is where you can get in on all of it for pro and college basketball.
Yeah, and don't forget the holiday tournaments and the Emirates NBA Cup. Big moments, big matchups, and a whole lot on the line. Don't miss out. Jump in and bet on the action today.
So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DukeBB. That's code DUKEBB. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
We're back from the break, Donald, and the ACC says, "Hey, we got to change things in football. We don't really love the way the tiebreakers work this year. That kind of produced a strange matchup, and so we're going to change all the tiebreakers around, and also the schedule. We got to change the schedule around and things like that. They might as well call this the Duke rule." They've done some crazy things. For example, one thing they've done is next year, there will be some ACC teams that will play 9 conference games, and there'll be some ACC teams that play 8 conference games. This is just the explanation is this. So there are some ACC teams that have they have 2 games scheduled against Power 4 conference opponents, against, top tier kind of conference opponents, non-conference opponents, I should say, non-conference. And the ACC is like, well, we don't want to make life too difficult on those teams with the new 9-game schedule. So if you have 2 power conference opponents already on your schedule, you're only going to play 8 conference games. And there are 5 ACC teams, Boston College, Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina, who will play 8 conference games next year, 2026, because they already have 2 games against power conference opponents. The rest of the conference, including Duke, is going to play 9 conference games because the rest of us only have 1 game scheduled against the power conference opponent. Did you track all that? Does that all make sense? So anyway, because it's not 8, because we're moving to 9 for most of the conference, including Duke, they had to add a game. And for Duke, the game they added is at Miami. We just randomly pick a name out of the hat. How about you play the best team in the league on the road? Even though our past 2 games against Miami have both been on the road. Hello? Anyway, I think the ACC is doing everything in their power to ensure that the Duke Blue Devils do not return to the conference championship game next year. Donald, I say we bleep them and do it anyway. What do you think?
So you mentioned the tiebreakers. I just want to be clear that the tiebreakers are going to change, but they have not yet been announced on how they're going to change. They're going to release that with the schedule that's expected, the full dates that are expected to come in late January. Now, with this schedule, right? You mentioned that Miami game that was added. First of all, this was already in the works. They were already talking about doing this, and it was in response to the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten are also, if they're not, I mean, the SEC is moving to a 9-game schedule. The Big Ten is already at a 9-game schedule, and they have rules with Power 4 opponents that you have to schedule. So they're basically trying to get in line with that and make it where they say, hey, the ACC is doing the same thing you are, so let's grade everybody on the merits. Now, the Miami game, yeah, you're right, Jason. Somebody got scheduled against the best team in the ACC, and that's Miami. Because last time we're still the ACC champions. So yeah, they can go ahead and sit on that if they want to. But I think here's the deal with this. It's a transition year, and as you mentioned, in 2027 is when this 9-game schedule is going to become effect. But because there's 17 football schools, one team is still going to play an 8-game schedule every year. Now, Jason, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that teams must play a minimum of 10 Power 4 opponents in a year. Now, if you have a 9-game schedule, that means you have 9 ACC games and you have to schedule 1 Power 4 non-conference game. Guess who does not qualify under that? Notre Dame, which has an agreement with the ACC as of right now. You know, they're still mad, so they're trying to get out of it. But as of right now, they are scheduled to play 6 ACC opponents every single year. So we are forced to play Notre Dame in a couple of years. And that will not count as a Power 4 game. So we have to find yet another opponent. So the funny thing with this, Jason, is at least for Duke, right? You mentioned the ACC opponents. At home, we have Boston College, Clemson, UNC, and Stanford. On the road next year, we will go to Georgia Tech. You mentioned Miami. We will go to NC State, UVA, and Wake Forest. And our non-conference schedule right now is Tulane, at Illinois, the return game from last year, and William & Mary. Missing from that is UConn. Who was supposed to come to Duke, but because of this new schedule, they have been pushed. That game has been pushed to 2027. So Duke's schedule is now in compliance for next year.
By the way, did you hear who UConn's going to play instead?
UNC.
Yes, they're playing the Tar Heels. They substituted Duke for UNC.
Well, it's not that they substituted. They were already scheduled to play UConn, but next year UNC was. But when they scheduled it, we had already set our date. UNC then set their date for the same date as ours, and we said, well, I guess you can't play 2 teams at the same time, so we didn't need you on our schedule anyway. Sayonara. We'll see you next year. But as Duke's schedule is in compliance for next season, that's fine. But moving forward, Jason, they're going to have to shuffle their non-conference schedule because in 2027 and in 2027 and 2030, they have games against Rice, UConn, and Notre Dame in both of those years. As of right now, I know UConn's still trying to join the Big 12 or the whatever conference, but they're not a Power 4 opponent. They're not independent. Notre Dame, of course, is in the ACC for everything but football. They don't count. And Rice is in the American Athletic. So they have to find another Power 4 game, and one of these teams is going to have to go. And then, frankly, if one of those years is the year that Duke is selected to have an 8-game schedule, they will need to wipe out both of those teams other than Notre Dame and then add 2 more games to the schedule. So the one thing that you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of these teams kind of flipping schedules, kind of moving games here and there, because a lot of these games are scheduled 5, 6, 7 years in advance. So they're going to have to do this kind of juggling of scheduling here. I will also note that non-conference game against UVA and NC State that didn't count this year. It was a non-conference game. That was moved to Brazil for next year. It's also now going to count as an ACC conference game. So at least that part has been remedied. But teams are going to have to shuffle around, and there's teams next year. Just looking at the teams that play Notre Dame, Miami needs another Power 4 game besides them. SMU needs another one. Stanford needs another one. And Syracuse needs another one. And actually, UNC has to shed another game from their schedule. It won't be UConn, so it's probably going to be East Tennessee State to add another Power 4 team to their schedule. So you're going to see a lot of movement in the next few weeks and maybe a month as these teams try to, again, schedule the opponents that they need to remain compliant. But I think the one thing is the fact that Notre Dame doesn't count is very, very dumb. And the fact that Duke and the rest of the ACC, someone is going to have to play just 8 games while everyone else plays 9. How that works into the tiebreakers is anybody's guess, and the ACC has to figure that out.
It's a confusing mess, and honestly, with the way things have been going with the ACC, I'm not worrying too much about who are we playing in 2, 3, 4 years. I'm just hoping the conference is still around.
Well, 2030, notably, all the scheduling is running through 2030, which is when that kind of second tier of grant of rights payments kind of reduces, and that's when you might, where people are speculating, you might start seeing teams decide whether or not they want to remain.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, connected to Duke football, I do want to mention that we're still waiting for a decision by Darian Mensah. He is deciding whether to go to the NFL draft or stay at Duke. He's said he's functionally ruled out the transfer portal. Like, he's not considering, if he stays in college, he will stay at Duke. But there's been a lot of talk that Darian Mensah might find his way, into the second or third round, perhaps, of the NFL draft. We've been through this before with Duke. Duke produces NFL quarterbacks. We just do. I mean, there've been guys who start for Duke, a lot of them end up in the NFL as starters as well. So
they all end up on the Indianapolis coach, which has similar jerseys to us. So it's kind of a natural transition.
Exactly. So we're waiting to find out his decision. I will note that Manny Diaz said today that Darian Mensah has been practicing with the team and has every intention of playing in the Sun Bowl. It's worth noting that there are some guys for Duke who, because they're going into the NBA draft, the NFL draft, have opted not to play in the Sun Bowl. I don't blame those guys one bit. Chandler Rivers just announced that he's going to be preparing for the draft and will not participate in the Sun Bowl. There are a lot of things, there are showcases and the such that these players, if you really want to be a high draft pick, you need to take part in. And as much as I want Duke to win the Sun Bowl, and as much as I enjoy the fact that Duke makes a bowl game, let's be very clear and very honest, bowl games are sort of devalued a lot in the current college football environment. So I don't blame
Brian Parker, also the offensive tackle, is also declared for the draft.
Yes.
I think he mentioned that he's not playing in the Sun Bowl. I might be incorrect on that.
No, he did. But I believe he did. And Chandler Rivers technically, I think, hasn't announced anything about it, but the presumption
he has. He has announced.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in any event, last thing we want to get to before we go on this DBR Bites that, like all DBR Bites, is ending up way longer than we expected. The NBA Cup, which is the in-season tournament that the NBA has been doing. They just finished on Tuesday. Really, I think a fairly exciting thing that the NBA has put together, and people are into it at least a little bit. It spices up the regular season a tiny bit more than usual. Usually there are people not really paying attention to the NBA at all until you get to February or so, and this is something in December that matters a little bit. But they've been playing it in Vegas. Look, I love Vegas. Everybody loves Vegas. But they're not getting great crowds in Vegas. There's not a lot of energy in the arena. And one of the ways, now they don't want to do it on someone's home floor. That would not be would be fair. So they're talking. The NBA is talking about. They've said, we're thinking we may try this in some college arenas. Send it to some college towns. Get some of the college enthusiasm out there on the floor. And everyone said, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver went to Duke. The best college atmosphere that you can find is at Duke. There are a lot of folks talking about maybe the NBA Cup comes to Cameron Indoor Stadium. Donald, what do you think about this?
I love this idea. First of all, it provides some incentive. And to be clear, right, I really like the NBA Cup. I think there's obviously some things that they can do to kind of up the stature of it. But one thing is for sure, the one thing, Jason, that a lot of people say they hate about the NBA is that the players play like they don't care. Guess who cares about these games because they get an extra $1 million a person? Is the players. The players are the ones spawning the competition that comes out of this NBA Cup.
I thought it was $500,000 a person.
I'm sorry, 500,000. I thought it was $1 million. Yeah, regardless, they're getting extra money. Some
Regardless,
of these guys,
$5,000 is a lot of money.
You're saying that like we ain't got it
for a lot
like,
of money. Yeah,
I ain't got 500 grand. Like if I was on the team, I'd be playing my butt off for it too. You see guys like Tyler Kolek being heroes because they're like, yo, this is my whole year's check in one game. Let's get it.
Yeah.
So the fact that these players are enthusiastic about it and wanting, again, have the incentive to play for things and go for it, it's cool. And it becomes a cool thing. And I think they can up the stature. Playing in camera would be awesome, right? Save for the half of the players who weren't on, in the NBA, who weren't on Duke already, who haven't played in camera, right? These are for these guys who don't get this opportunity to play in a camera, to play in a Fog Allen, a Hinkle Fieldhouse, those type of, historic arenas, Pauley Pavilion, those type of arenas. And I would love to see, and of course, because, Adam Silver is a Dookie, to have this in camera, I think would be a great first start of it. It would be the semifinals and the final. It would occur at a time right now where, of course, there's a reading period, so it's not like Duke has to reschedule any non-conference games around it. It would be free and clear. And I think also the facilities are there. I mean, NBA players are coming to practice. USA basketball, women's basketball was just on campus as well, so the facilities are there for these teams. And so to play in a historic building like Cameron would be awesome, and I think would generate some eyeballs on how this would work, right? How like an NBA team playing an NBA game on the best college floor in America would be instant ratings. People would love to see that, I think, and I think it'd be a cool thing for the NBA and for Duke.
So I'm going to tell you right now that they should schedule this in one of two places. Either Duke or Rupp Arena in Kentucky. And the reason for that is Duke and Kentucky produce the most NBA players. It's a fact. Kentucky has 27 active guys on NBA rosters. Duke has 26 active guys in NBA rosters. There's no one who comes close to those two. The next is UCLA with 14, Arizona with 13, Gonzaga with 12, and on down the line. But Duke and Kentucky have basically lapped the rest of the field. And I think the reason you do that is because there's a decent, if not a, above average chance that there will be either a Kentucky or Duke alum featuring prominently on whichever team, on one of the two teams or four teams, if you're including the semifinals, playing in the NBA Cup. And as a result, you'll get a little extra juice from the crowd. You'll get some students to turn out. Next year, Boston. You think Duke fans ain't going to be like, we get to see Jason Tatum playing on the Celtics in Cameron? You kidding me? Next year, New York Knicks. Karl Anthony Towns coming back to Kentucky in Rupp Arena. You think Kentucky fans aren't going to show up for that? That's why you do this at either Cameron or Rupp, because you're pretty likely to get a stud player from one of those schools participating back on campus for their NBA team. The spectacle of that is just, how can the NBA resist it?
Well, also, Jason, the law of averages says that there's going to be a Dookie on the team. There's 20, there's 30 teams in the NBA, and 24 of them have some Duke representation, whether it's players, whether it's front office staff, or in the case of the Lakers, it's the coaching staff, where there's like three guys on from JJ and Lindsey and Emil Jefferson. All of them played at Duke. So you're going to have that tie-in. And yes, like the question would be, yes, it's out of season for the students. They'll be in the exam period and then leave. But sure, some will probably stay if they got tickets to see NBA players where they can literally touch them from the out of bounds. Absolutely. Like that is going to be something that I think they start. And I think they start with Cameron Indoor. I think the players are going to go for it because, again, some of these players don't have that opportunity to play in Cameron. So this would be a great way to come back as an NBA player to play in that arena. And yeah, I think it'd just be great all around and again, it would promote the interest of the NBA Cup, and I think would help bring more stature to it.
Yeah, the NBA tried to set the cup apart by having these special floors that teams play on that just the most ridiculous, like it hurt my eyes.
See, I love them. I know I'm in the minority there, but it's kind of funny to have some of those, especially when they don't do it for the finals, but they'll do like every on a random Tuesday for the NBA Cup. I think it's funny.
In any event, I think the floor ain't working for you. get a new arena, get a new stadium. The one thing working against Duke, the reason I think it may not be Duke is that logistically, 9,000 or so seats is not, the NBA is like, that's a small arena. And just like the general, Cameron's ancient, it's hallowed ground, but it's not modern ground. And there's some real questions about the NBA being able to set up things the way they want in Cameron Indoor Stadium. And that's why I think maybe you'll see like Rupp or, perhaps Arizona or Gonzaga, someone like that, that might get picked ahead of Cameron. But I think Cameron's the legend. So that's where I hope that's what they decide. Last word to you, sir.
I don't think any of those things are the issue. I mean, if 93-14 was the issue, Cameron would not be the one place that has been thrown out by every pundit so far. The reason that is maybe a concern about Cameron is there are no luxury boxes in Cameron, and that is where the NBA likes to, those big wigs and stuff like that. But again, some like Spike Lee was on the floor for the Knicks in the NBA Cup, and I'm sure he would pay a hefty sum if the Knicks were to play in Cameron to be courtside. I think that's something that you just kind of have to change your view. The NBA has to change their view of how to appeal to the people who would buy these, expensive luxury boxes. But the fact that Cameron is being considered is awesome. The fact they're considering this as a thing to do is awesome. It's one of the tweaks that I would have. But again, the NBA Cup is here. And if it's in Cameron next year, maybe someone find me a ticket. I'll go.
Yeah, the other arena that some people talked about is Allen Fieldhouse for Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been? You ever been to Lawrence?
No,
Kansas?
it's number one. It's number one on my list.
Well, dude, it's a long way from civilization.
I know. I don't care.
I'm just saying.
I will make the pilgrimage.
No, it's great to visit. I've been there. I've seen a game there. It's pretty cool, but it's a haul from Kansas City. It's not like, you can get into RDU a lot easier than you can get into Lawrence, Kansas. I'm just going to say that. Mm-hmm. It's flat. But Donald, it's weird. It is just like driving that highway. You're just like, there's no contour. It's very strange. I'm not, by the way, not throwing shade, not insulting any of our many fans out in the plains. But those of us who live in areas where they have hills, we just find it kind of strange. Anyway. All right, that's going to do it for the latest edition of DBR Bites. If I have not insulted you, if I have not offended you, feel free to send us email. dbrpodcast@gmail.com is the email address. We're looking for your headlines. Duke plays Texas Tech. As soon as that game is over on Saturday, start sending us those headlines. What did you see? What's the story of the game? How can you sum it up in like 5, 7, 8 words at the most? By the way, a headline is not 15 words.
Correct.
But you can send us poems and limericks. We're still accepting those. I'm interested. I want to hear it. Anyway, that's Donald. I'm Jason. This has been DBR Bites, the Duke Basketball Roundup, and this is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home to MSG and Texas Tech.